Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive on a topic that's been getting a lot of buzz lately.
Yeah.
It's the Silicon Valley real estate market.
Oh, yeah.
So whether you're in tech or real estate or just love seeing how Silicon Valley reinvents itself,
hmm
this one's for you.
I think a lot of people are going to be really interested in this.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
ex-
It's known for
Yeah.
startups and huge campuses,
Right.
but things are changing,
Yeah, it's really dynamic right now.
for sure.
The commercial real estate scene is going through a pretty big shift.
It's not just about downsizing either, right?
Right.
It's the why behind it.
Yeah, I think that's what's really interesting to dig into.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's definitely some economic uncertainty that's making everyone a little bit cautious.
Right.
And then, venture capitalists aren't just throwing money around like they used to.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
So there's a big push for companies to show they can be profitable.
It's not just about growing super fast anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not just about growth at any cost.
It's about proving you can actually make money, which makes sense.
Right.
But what happens to all those office buildings
Yeah, where does everyone go?
that used to be full of all these startups?
Right, well, that's where the real estate part comes in.
Okay.
Fewer employees needing desks
Yeah.
equals less need for all that office space.
Right.
Especially for those big older buildings.
Especially those, yeah.
And some areas are seeing vacancy rates
Oh, wow.
as high as 20%,
20%.
which is huge.
That's a lot of empty space.
It is.
So landlords are having to adapt.
Yeah, they have to.
What are some of the things that they're doing?
Well, one thing that's getting a lot of attention is converting those empty offices into like apartments.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a way to address California's housing shortage
Yeah.
and also, breathe some life into these buildings that aren't being used.
You're talking about turning like cubicles into condos.
Yeah, essentially. It's definitely appealing to people who want that live, work, play lifestyle right in Silicon Valley,
Yeah, for sure.
right in the heart of it all.
But I imagine that would be a really expensive conversion.
It can be. Yeah, it's complex and costly.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the plumbing and electrical systems,
Right.
and then you have to meet all the building codes.
All the regulations and everything.
But with housing demand so high, some developers think it's a good long-term investment.
Okay, so it's a gamble, but it could pay off big time.
Yeah, you could say that.
Are there any examples of this actually happening?
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to visualize it.
In San Francisco, some developers are taking on some pretty ambitious projects,
Okay.
turning former office towers into high-rise apartment buildings.
Wow. That's a pretty big change.
It is. It
Right.
really shows you how much demand there is for housing,
Even with all the costs involved.
even with all the costs. Yeah.
So what about other parts of Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
like San Jose?
Well, San Jose is a good example of another trend that's gaining traction.
Okay. It's called mixed-use development.
With that?
So instead of just converting offices into just apartments, they're combining residential with retail and office space.
So it's like a little mini city.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's all in one hub.
That sounds really cool.
And it aligns with how people want to live these days,
They want everything close by.
Exactly. Workspaces, shops, restaurants, entertainment.
All right, there.
All right there.
Makes it easy.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've got conversions to residential and these mixed-use developments.
Right.
But not every company is getting rid of their offices completely.
They're not all.
What about companies that are downsizing but still want some kind of physical space?
Well, that's where co-working and flexible workspaces come in.
Oh, yeah, those are becoming really popular.
Yeah, companies like WeWork and Industrious are doing really well with this trend.
Okay.
They offer short-term leases,
Okay.
spaces you can adjust the size of,
Oh, that's useful.
and all those cool amenities that startups love.
Yeah, so it's more like a flexible approach to office space.
You only pay for what you need.
Exactly when you need it.
That's smart, especially in this climate.
Yeah, you got to be adaptable.
So this works for startups, but what about other types of workers?
It works for all kinds of people.
Okay.
Freelancers, remote workers from big companies,
Yeah.
anyone who wants a professional but flexible environment.
So it's really catering to the way people work today.
It really is.
But what about from an investor's perspective?
Oh, that's a whole other angle.
Yeah. What opportunities are they seeing in all of this change?
Well, some investors are seeing the chance to buy up those undervalued office buildings.
Because the vacancy rates are so high.
Exactly.
So they're buying low, hoping the market will rebound.
That's one strategy.
Or maybe they'll repurpose the building entirely.
Yeah, turn into something more profitable.
That makes sense.
There's also a lot of interest in teaming up with developers on those conversions
Oh.
or investing in the co-working industry.
Oh, yeah, because that's expected to keep growing. So there's a lot of potential, but also a lot of unknowns.
Definitely.
What advice would you give to investors who are trying to figure this all out?
Well, the most important thing is to do your research.
Yeah, due diligence is key.
Really understand the market trends.
What's happening in specific areas?
And look for properties that have that potential for redevelopment.
So location is still super important.
Always.
Areas with lots of growth and good transportation.
So they're the key factors.
It sounds like it's not just about jumping on the latest trend.
Yeah.
It's about being strategic,
Exactly.
making informed decisions based on research,
Yeah.
and, being able to predict what might happen.
A little bit of foresight goes a long way.
Understanding those zoning regulations, too,
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
and all the complexities of doing these conversions.
It's not a simple process.
So this has been really interesting,
Good, I'm glad.
but I'm curious about the long-term outlook.
Yeah.
What do you think the future holds for Silicon Valley real estate?
Well, I think change is always going to be a part of Silicon Valley.
It's in its DNA.
But change creates opportunity.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, and looking ahead, I think we're going to see some incredible innovations in office spaces themselves,
Like what kind of innovation?
driven by technology and sustainability.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so think smart buildings
Okay.
with sensors that optimize energy use.
Make them more efficient?
Exactly, and personalize the work environment.
That sounds pretty futuristic.
It does, but it's closer than you think.
So we're talking about offices that are almost like living organisms,
In a way, yeah.
constantly adapting to the people inside.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
And these technologies aren't just about efficiency and comfort,
What else can they do?
They can also boost collaboration and creativity.
How so?
Well, blurring the lines between physical and digital workspaces.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
So that's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
it kind of is.
But I can totally see it happening in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're always pushing the boundaries.
Always pushing those boundaries.
And it's not just fancy gadgets either.
Right.
Sustainability is a huge topic these days.
It really is.
Everyone's trying to be more eco-friendly.
Yeah, reduce that environmental footprint.
So how does that tie into this whole real estate shakeup?
It plays a huge role.
Folk,
Converting existing buildings is inherently more sustainable.
then building new ones.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And investors are realizing that green buildings,
They're not just good for the planet,
right?
but they also attract tenants.
Yeah, people want to work in those spaces.
And you can charge higher rents.
Exactly.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah, for everyone involved.
Sustainability is becoming a core value.
It really is.
It's driving investment decisions and tenant preferences.
And it's all part of creating more livable and responsible communities.
All right, so we've covered a lot here.
Well, yeah.
Downsizing conversions, co-working,
Tech-driven innovation.
sustainability.
Right.
If someone's listening trying to make sense of all this change, what's the key takeaway?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Silicon Valley is constantly changing.
That's always been the case.
It's in its nature. It's all about adapting and reinventing itself.
So this real estate shakeup, it's not the end of the world.
It's just another chapter in that story.
Yeah, it's just evolution.
Exactly.
So it's not about being afraid of the changes.
Yeah.
It's about understanding them.
Seeing the opportunities.
Exactly.
So whether you're an investor,
For a developer,
a startup founder,
or just someone who lives and works here,
you got to be flexible, stay informed, and be ready to adapt.
Silicon Valley is still full of potential.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not always how people traditionally thought of it.
Yeah, the rules are changing.
But there are still rewards out there
Definitely.
for those who can adapt.
And think creatively.
This deep dive has been fascinating.
I'm glad you think so.
I'm seeing Silicon Valley real estate in a whole new light.
That's great to hear.
But before we wrap up, you
Yeah.
mentioned something earlier
Mm-hmm.
about how Silicon Valley wasn't always the tech hub it is today.
Right.
It makes me wonder.
What's that? Well, looking back, Silicon Valley's gone through some pretty amazing changes.
Like what?
It started as agricultural land,
Wait.
known for its orchards.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and then it became a manufacturing hub.
Okay.
And then, of course, the tech revolution happened.
So it's always been about reinventing itself.
It has, and adapting to new industries and economic realities.
Makes sense.
Each transformation brought its own challenges and opportunities.
And this real estate shift is just the latest chapter.
Exactly. It's an ongoing story of adaptation.
It's like this ability to evolve is part of its identity.
I think so.
It's never stood still,
Never.
always looking for what's next.
Yeah, always on the lookout for the next big thing.
So this real estate shakeup,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a sign of decline.
I don't think so.
It's just a natural progression.
A response to the changing needs of the tech industry and the economy.
So instead of a crisis,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like a catalyst for innovation.
I like that way of looking at it.
New ways of living and working.
And that's where startups come in.
Oh, yeah. How so?
It's not just that they need less space now.
It's about their innovative spirit.
Exactly. They could shape the future of office spaces and entire communities.
So startups could drive this transformation,
They could lead the way.
not just be a part of it.
Yeah, they've always been disruptors.
Right.
What if they apply that to real estate?
Startups developing technology for offices
Exactly. Pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
in terms of
Efficiency, sustainability.
user experience.
Oh, yes.
How- Okay. Give me an example.
Okay, so we're already seeing smart buildings with sensors that manage energy use.
Right. Those are becoming more common.
But what if startups took it a step further?
Okay. I'm listening.
AI systems that personalize the work environment,
Oh, wow.
adjust the lighting temperature, even the background noise.
Based on people's preferences.
Exactly.
So the office adapts to you.
Yeah, almost like a personal assistant for your workspace.
That's incredible.
And it's not just about comfort.
Okay. What else?
Think about collaboration and creativity.
How would those be improved?
Imagine holographic meetings,
Oh, wow.
where remote people feel like they're actually in the room.
That would be game-changing.
Or augmented reality interfaces.
How do those do?
Layering information on top of the physical space.
That's mind-blowing.
It really blurs the lines between physical and digital.
It's like those lines are disappearing.
They are, and that's going to create so many possibilities for how we design and use workspaces.
And startups are in a perfect position to lead this.
Yeah, they're tech savvy and they're not afraid to disrupt things.
It's like coming full circle.
I know, it's interesting, isn't it?
Disrupting traditional industries with technology.
Right.
Now using that technology to disrupt their own spaces.
It's a cool thought.
And we can't forget about sustainability.
Right, that's a huge part of this too.
How are startups influencing that aspect of real estate?
Well, they're demanding more from their workspaces.
Like what?
Energy efficient buildings.
Okay.
Green building materials.
Makes sense.
Spaces that are easy to get to without a car.
Biking, public transit, all that.
Exactly.
So they're pushing developers to build more sustainably.
They are, and it's working.
How can you tell?
More buildings are being designed with LE certification.
I've heard of that.
You see solar panels on rooftops and charging stations for electric vehicles.
It's like sustainability is the new standard,
It's becoming essential.
driven by the tech community.
And it's not just about being eco-friendly.
Okay.
It's also about creating healthier work environments.
Oh, that makes sense.
Green buildings can actually boost productivity and make people happier.
So it's good for the planet and good for the people.
It's a win-win.
Sustainability is not just a trend anymore,
It's a core value
driving innovation and investment.
across the whole real estate sector.
This is all so fascinating.
It's an interesting time for sure.
It feels like a turning point for Silicon Valley real estate.
Yeah, I agree.
But with all this focus on technology and sustainability and changing work patterns,
Right.
what about the human element?
That's an important question.
How will all this impact the people who live and work here?
Because at the end of the day, real estate is about more than just buildings.
It's about people's lives,
Creating spaces that make their lives better.
building communities.
Exactly. You want to create a sense of belonging and well-being.
So how do you think this shakeup will affect people's daily lives?
Well, I think we could see more vibrant and livable communities.
How so?
Think about those mixed-use developments.
The ones with residential and retail and office space.
Yeah, all in one place.
That could create more walkable neighborhoods,
People could live, work, and play without needing a car all the time.
like those traditional close-knit communities.
Exactly, where everything's within walking distance.
I like that idea.
And remember, people are spending more time in their local communities these days.
Because of remote work and flexible schedules,
So creating spaces that cater to those needs is important.
like parks and community centers.
Co-working spaces that also function as social hubs.
That would make these communities even more attractive.
It's about creating a sense of place.
It's like the whole idea of community is changing.
Yeah, it's not just about where you live anymore.
It's about where you work and connect with people.
Where you feel like you belong?
And that's what this transformation is all about.
I think so.
It's about human connection and well-being.
Designing environments that support a more fulfilling life.
This has been so insightful.
I'm glad you found it helpful.
We've covered so much.
We have.
Downsizing, co-working technology, sustainability.
The human element.
It's all connected.
It really is.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what's the one big question that
Okay.
you'd like to leave our listener with
Something to think about.
as they consider the future of Silicon Valley real estate?
That's a good one. Let me think. How about this? How might virtual and augmented reality change how we think about physical spaces? Not just in Silicon Valley, but everywhere.
Wow, that's a big one.
It is.
As those technologies get more popular, it really could blur the lines between the physical and digital worlds even more.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, who knows what kind of new real estate ideas will come out of that?
That's the exciting part.
We could be working from virtual offices on a beach,
I'd like that.
or having meetings in holographic conference rooms.
It sounds like science fiction, but it could be reality.
It really could, and Silicon Valley would be leading the way.
I think so.
They've always been the pioneers of technology.
Definitely always pushing the boundaries.
And this is just another frontier for them to conquer.
It's fascinating to think about the possibilities.
Absolutely, but we can't forget about the people who live and work in Silicon Valley right now.
Right. Those changes are affecting them today.
So how do you see this real estate shakeup impacting their lives?
Well, I think one of the biggest things could be the creation of more vibrant communities.
How so?
Those mixed-use developments,
Oh.
the ones with residential retail and office spaces all together.
Yeah.
They could make neighborhoods more walkable.
So people could live, work, and play without needing to drive everywhere.
Exactly.
That's appealing.
It is.
It's like a return to those old-fashioned neighborhoods.
Where everything was close by.
I like that idea.
And with more remote work and flexible schedules these days,
Yeah.
people are spending more time in their local communities.
So it makes sense to create spaces that cater to that.
Right? Things like parks and community centers.
Co-working spaces that double as social hubs.
It's all about creating a sense of community.
It's like the definition of community is evolving.
I think it is.
It's not just about your address anymore.
It's about where you connect with people.
Where you work, where you feel a sense of belonging. And that's what makes this whole transformation so interesting.
It's not just about buildings.
It's about people.
And creating environments that support a better way of life.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
We've covered so much ground,
We have.
from the impact of downsizing to the rise of co-working.
The potential of technology, the importance of sustainability.
And of course, the human element.
That's all intertwined.
It really is.
Mhm.
But before we go,
Yeah.
is there one final takeaway?
One big thought
Something for our listener to ponder.
as they think about the future of Silicon Valley real estate.
Yeah, what's the big takeaway?
I think this Silicon Valley has always been about change and reinvention.
That's its history.
And this real estate shift is just another part of that story.
Makes sense.
The people who will succeed here.
The companies,
Yeah.
the individual,
Are the ones who can adapt to new realities.
and never stop innovating.
Exactly. The future of Silicon Valley real estate is being shaped right now.
And it's full of both challenges and amazing possibilities.
That's what makes it so exciting.
Well said. A huge thank you to you
You're welcome.
and to our amazing listeners for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Be sure to check out the show notes for all the resources we talked about.
And until next time,
Keep exploring, keep innovating.
and keep diving deep.